You know, in crypto, it always comes down to two things, right? Fear and greed. They're like two sides of the same coin. But for XRP right now, wow, they are locked in this absolutely brutal battle that could literally define its entire future. And today, we are going to unpack that. We're going to get right into this high-stakes standoff.
So here's the central question, the big mystery. Why is everyone dumping XRP while the price is just stuck? I mean, on the surface, it looks like a sinking ship, doesn't it? The price is going nowhere, sentiment is just in the gutter, and it feels like everyone's running for the exits. But if you look beneath the waves, something totally different is going on. So what is the real story here?
And this really tells the tale, doesn't it? It's like two completely different worlds. On one side, you've got the retail investors, everyday people, and they are gripped by just extreme fear. But on the other side, you've got the big players, the Wall Street institutions, and they are buying XRP at a historic pace. I mean, this is a classic showdown, and believe me, the stakes could not be higher. So let's dive into this. This clash between Main Street fear and Wall Street greed, it's all happening at one critical battleground, that $2 mark, and that's exactly where we're going to start.
Okay, so yeah, the price of XRP looks like it's treading water, but that is only a tiny piece of the picture. The real story, the real action, is all happening beneath the surface. There's this massive chasm opening up between the short-term panic you see everywhere and the quiet, long-term fundamental growth that's happening behind the scenes.
$2. It seems like just a number, right? But it's so much more than that. It is the line in the sand. It's this huge psychological wall where the bulls and the bears are just locked in a brutal, brutal tug-of-war for control.
So who's actually winning this tug-of-war? Well, to figure that out, you just gotta follow the money. And that path, it leads us straight to Wall Street.
All right, so how are they doing it? How is Wall Street getting in on this action? Well, they have a secret weapon, and it's called the US Spot XRP ETF. Just think of it like an express lane straight into the XRP market. It's this regulated, super simple way for these big institutions to invest without all the usual headaches of, buying and storing the actual tokens themselves.
And listen, they are not just dipping their toes in the water here. They are diving in head first. These ETFs have already swallowed up, get this, over $861 million in assets. That is not a ripple, my friends. That is a tsunami of institutional cash flooding into this market.
And this isn't just some flash in the pan either. We are talking about 15 consecutive days, a steady stream of institutional money just pouring into these funds, day after day. They're not just buying, they are accumulating relentlessly.
Just look at this. This chart shows you just how bullish Wall Street is on XRP specifically. They are pouring 3 times more money into XRP ETFs than into similar funds for other big assets like Solana. So you see, this isn't just a general bet on crypto. No, this is a very, very specific bet on XRP.
So what's the big plan here? What's the strategy? It's actually pretty simple and kind of brilliant. One source put it perfectly, calling it a calculated move to absorb supply while prices remain suppressed. In other words, they're using all that fear as fuel. They're taking advantage of the retail panic to scoop up as much XRP as they can on the cheap. Pretty smart, huh?
And it's not just Wall Street either. The company behind XRP, Ripple itself, is doubling down. I mean, they've just raised $500 million. That's a massive war chest to fuel their growth.
And that new funding, it has sent Ripple's valuation straight into the stratosphere. A whopping $40 billion. That is not just a vote of confidence. That's a powerful statement of intent. It tells you that Ripple is building for the long haul.
And you better believe they're putting that money to work. They are building a global financial network, piece by piece. They're laying down deep roots in Singapore, making major inroads in Hong Kong. They're methodically, carefully creating the financial infrastructure of tomorrow.
So all of this begs a huge question, right? What is fueling all this confidence from the quote-unquote smart money? Well, the answer really boils down to one powerful word: legitimacy.
See, for years, there's been this huge storm cloud of regulatory uncertainty hanging over XRP, especially in the US. But now, it looks like those clouds are finally starting to part. The sun is beginning to shine through. And that, right there, is changing absolutely everything.
And look, this isn't just wishful thinking. The dominoes are actually starting to fall, one after another. Ripple's launching its own stablecoin. We've got a new, potentially much more crypto-friendly face set to lead the SEC. And maybe most important of all, the very first regulated XRP futures are hitting the market.
Now, why are those futures such a huge deal? Well, because they're regulated by the CFTC. That's the same agency that oversees commodities, like gold and oil. This is a massive step toward classifying XRP as a commodity, not a security. And in the US market, that is basically the holy grail of regulatory clarity.
So while this whole regulatory picture is clearing up, Ripple is also busy building a better mousetrap. They are creating what you might call a bank-grade network. They're using their new stablecoin to make international payments faster, cheaper, and way more reliable. It's exactly the kind of efficient system that traditional finance and big banks have been dreaming of.
Okay, let's put it all together. We've got widespread fear on one side and relentless greed on the other. We have a regulatory storm that is finally clearing up. So, what happens when all these powerful forces collide? Well, that brings us to our final section, the coiled spring.
So here we are, right back where we started, looking at this great divergence. On one side, you have the weak hands, the fearful, who are selling off their XRP and testing that $2 floor. And on the other side, you have these institutional giants, just quietly buying everything, absorbing every single token they can get their hands on. And this brings us to what might be the perfect metaphor for this exact moment. As one analyst said, today's market paints a picture of a coiled spring. Think about it. All the fear from the sellers is pushing it down, compressing it. But at the same time, the immense buying pressure from institutions is winding it up, tighter and tighter and tighter.
Look, at the end of the day, this isn't about trying to predict the future. It's about understanding the incredible forces that are at play right now. And those forces are creating an immense, almost unbearable tension. So the real question the market is asking isn't if this coiled spring is going to be released. The question is, when it finally is, just how explosive is that move going to be?